welcome back. I hope you can hit like and subscribe. Myself and our little baby channel would be amazingly appreciative. That would be amazing, and you would be awesome. So welcome to the garden. This is the first time we're out here this year, or I was out here yesterday, but we're going to be doing some initial outdoor seeding. It's March. It's still pretty cold, but you're going to see me get some seeds in the ground. You're going to see me add a little bit of nutrition, and I'm going to explain what these white tunnels and blankets are. So first up, I'm going to be adding some of this product that I am a pretty big fan of. Give you a look at that. This is Gaia Green. It's a mix of blood meal, alfalfa meal, feather meal, fish meal, rock dust, and a few other good things. So I'm just going to throw a couple little handfuls on top of the bed. I've added a little bit of compost yesterday. I was out here just doing some initial prep. I'm just going to add again like a couple little handfuls scattered across the bed, mix it in my hand, and then I'm going to get some seeds in the ground. Alright, so we've got the Gaia spread, and you could also do the exact same thing with a rake that I did with my hands, but I just like to do it quick and dirty, use my hands. I'll give you a look at the peas that we're going to be planting today. These are sugar Ann. Now, they say snap peas, but you can also grow them as shelling peas. I've done both, and they work really well. So this entire bed here is going to be peas, and I haven't trellised it yet. It's still a little bit cold, and I've had experience with birds picking out these seeds right after I planted them. So that's why the trellis isn't up yet. We're going to be using the blanket. The first use is going to be for frost protection, and I'll explain that in a sec. But second use is actually going to keep the birds off. So once they've actually sprouted out of the ground, then I'll go put the trellis in, and then once they're big enough, they'll climb the trellis. So I'm going to pop these in the ground, water them in, and then I'll kind of explain the whole blanket setup and the frost protection. Wow, that was pretty impressive. I pretty much guessed exactly how many seeds I needed, and it worked out perfectly to fill this bed. So I'm just going to cover the seed holes, but first I'll give a little tip. Peas are really easy to seed by hand. They're obviously a big seed, but they don't like to have their roots disturbed too much. So best thing is to do is to direct plant them in the ground rather than starting them inside, because sometimes when transplanting them, their roots get a little bit shocked, and putting them in the ground, they have a worse start. So they get a way stronger start if you start them in the ground. They just establish quickly. They germinate pretty quickly, even when it's cold out. They're a cool weather crop. So yeah, peas, I definitely recommend starting in the ground versus starting inside. I've had some successes, but it hasn't worked out the best. And here, I space them pretty tightly. I do 2 rows, and I aim to, excuse me, and I aim to plant them about 3 inches apart per row. It's pretty dense, but once they're trellised, they just kind of form a wall. And once they're brought to the inside, it's pretty easy to pick from either side. So yeah, I plant them quite densely. So anytime you're doing seeding, once you seed, make sure that they're properly watered in. One, it'll make sure that they kind of sink in, everything settles, and they're making proper contact with the soil. And 2, they need the moisture to start the germination process. So once you kind of get everything settled in there, make sure to give them a good dose of water and let them settle. And then make sure to check on them, because once they've gotten wet, you don't want them to dry out again, because that'll again impede the germination process. So constantly check for moisture. Don't let them dry out. Yeah, so everything looks good. So now I'll explain what these kind of tunnels and these white blankets you see are. So even though it's an absolutely beautiful day outside right now, it is still quite cold at night, and we still haven't hit our first frost-free night. We're still getting frost overnight. So these blankets basically protect overnight from frost. So in the morning, instead of the ground being frozen, the blankets are what accumulate the frost. So when these seeds germinate, if we do get a frost, they're not going to be damaged by those overnight cold temperatures and that frost damage. They'll basically stay perfectly okay under the blanket. And once it gets warm enough, blanket comes off and they should be good to go. Like I said, the peas, they'll be trellised once they germinate. Peas are a cool weather crop, and we're almost at that last frost date. So pretty much as soon as they're popped out of the ground, the blanket's going to be coming off, and I'm going to be trellising them, and then you'll see basically a wall of peas form. So I'm going to get the blanket set back up on this one. Gonna leave them for the day, come back and check on them tomorrow, just make sure they're still wet, that I don't need to rewater. And the bonus of these is they also help keep in moisture, so water doesn't evaporate as quickly as if I left them off. So that's another bonus of these frost cloths. Another name for them is sometimes frost blanket, rime cloth. That's what you might hear it by. It kind of depends on where you are, but it basically all means the same thing. It's this type of like blanket cover that's meant for protection, and basically it does a few different duties. Like I said, I'm using it to protect from birds as well. So yeah, I highly recommend getting some. It does a few different things, and it's just good to have on hand. And all the things that you've seen me use in the video today, like the Gaia Green fertilizer, the tunnels, I'm going to put a link to that in the description of the video. So if you want to check it out, I've had great luck with these tunnels so far. They're just fiberglass poles with little metal attachers, and they just work great. You can stretch them out, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller. So I'll put the link down below. As same with the frost blanket, you can find that stuff anywhere, but I'll put the link to the one that I use below. And also Gaia Green. You can find that in, at least where I am in the west coast of Canada, you can find it in most garden centers, but I'll put a link below. You can also order on Amazon. So if you can't find it where you are, I'll make sure that you can find a link somewhere to it. So yeah, enjoy. Again, if you would hit like and subscribe, that would be a huge, huge help for us. But whatever you want to do, you're still awesome, and have an amazing day.